Hey everyone, wanted to give a big thank you to everyone for supporting us on our journey at the Seattle Open over the last few days. I have to say, first of all, massive shout out to all 8 opponents I played for being absolute gentlemen, people I would happily roll dice with again any other time. Also, the event organizers did a really good job. The TOs were very fair, friendly, and fast. They did a really good job keeping things moving. Again, while no tournament's perfect, no terrain board can ever be perfect, I think we got about as much enjoyment as could have hoped for. And really, again, if you're considering going to a tournament, I highly recommend going to an event like this. Now, let's quickly talk about where we finished up, because again, as much as I love talking about the fluff and just enjoying the game, Warhammer is a competitive channel at its heart. And we ended up finishing 23rd out of 200 plus people, about the top 10%. Which, you know what? At this point in 9th edition with Alpha Legion, that feels pretty damn good to me. Well, again, I think we could have done some things better, such as not bringing Chaos Space Marines. That was never in the cards for me. I love the faction too much, and I always enjoy playing them win or lose, rain or shine, whatever's happening in the meta. And the fact we're able to win some games and get a lot of close games and interesting games is everything I could have hoped for out of bringing my Alpha Legion. So last time we talked, we were sitting at 3-1 and had gone into the second bracket. Because for those who don't know, the Seattle Open separates players into brackets after results after the first 4 games. So we were sitting in the second bracket, and our first game in the bracketing period was against Todd's Space Wolves. Now, those who don't know Todd Kincaid, he's actually the owner of Table Wars and runs a really great charity I looked into later for autistic children. So again, big shout out to Todd for all he does for wargaming and in terms of charity. The game was a real banger start to finish. I guess Todd kind of took a look at my Lord of Skulls, took a look at my Bloodletters, took a look at my Bloodmaster, took a look at my Crimson Crown, took a look at my Cornmark Decimators, and decided, you know what? Todd was feeling the fury of Khorne today. So let's see, who won the first roll off? I went first. Todd deployed very aggressively, and we were able to take down some of the Thunderwolf Cav, do some work on some Vanguard vets. I made a big mistake, actually. One of my Decimators, 2 of my Decimators, whatever, had shot some Vanguard vets, and I thought it was a unit of 10. So 4 were dead, and then my Lord of Skulls came to shoot, and I said, you know what? We're going to put everything into the Vanguard vets. So when I shoot, I'm like, cool, I'll take like a absolute huge number of 2 damage or AP3 saves, and Todd also saves, fails a bunch, and then picks up the 1 Vanguard vet left, and I'm like, you said you combat squatted them. That's absolutely the thing you said, and I literally just forgot. So Lord of Skulls also went full Khorne and just absolutely decimated 1 lone Vanguard vet. But yeah, Todd played very aggressively, sent some smash characters in, sent the second unit of Vanguard vets, sent some Wolf Inflow in it behind. It was just a really aggressive first turn that if things had gone differently, we'd screened, we kind of established a wall of cultists, of CSM, even one of the Decimators was a little bit more positioned sacrificially. If things had gone differently for Todd, and he gets all the damage through he was intending, I think the game definitely takes a different turn. As was, he mainly just killed cultists and CSM, and what that meant was we were able to counterpunch really hard turn 2. With 2 Decimators, and the Lord Discordant got in the mix in terms of melee. The Lord of Skulls was able to shoot down range and do some really bad damage to some infantry, or I think it was a Dreadnought he shot turn 2, and did a lot of damage even with the -1 damage and Armor of Contempt. And I think that was probably the point when the game started to turn. Turns 3 through 5 were real slugfest there too, but ultimately we were able to start gaining the advantage. I waited a turn to drop down the Bloodletters because I figured that I wanted to really do it when I had the advantage and he couldn't really deal with them. So basically turn 3 they came down, took a flank, killed 5 Blood Claws, which are like their word for, I guess, tactical Marines, and flipped an objective there. And at that point, Todd had to make some real tough choices about sending a Redemptor back to go clear out the Bloodletters as opposed to coming forward to contest the midfield objective and put some pressure on the Lord of Skulls. The 48-inch range came in really handy on the Lord of Skulls, as it did basically every game in the event. And shout out to the Lord Discordant, who absolutely feasted. Turn 2, he finished off some Vanguard vets, and then he went through a wall and then killed a Redemptor, and he ended up killing a Librarian, and took a lot of firepower to kill with that 2-up save. So, and Armor of Contempt. So the Lord Discordant really came in clutch to that game. But again, shout out to Todd for a well-played game. I love the aggression, and things could have easily gone differently if turns 1 and 2 if he'd been able to break the wall in turn 1. So then the next game was against, it was against Thousand Suns, actually played by Rob from Goonhammer, which, if you've read a lot of our articles together, we worked together plenty. I had plenty of discussions about playing Chaos, and it was really funny. When I got to the table, I was like, what do you think about this game? And Rob was like, I don't think I can really lose this game. And I fully agreed with him. That was a completely accurate assessment. But I don't want to take anything away from Rob, because even though it was his game to lose, he still did a great job keeping up the pressure and not making any big mistakes that let me back in the game. So well played by him, regardless of the final score. The highlight of the game was actually the Lord of Skulls came in turn 2, out of reserves, and Rob had played in a Leviathan kind of aggressively towards one of my objectives, which meant that the Lord of Skulls out of strategic reserves could come in fewer than 9 inches away. And we made like a 5-inch charge and just absolutely picked up this Leviathan and just tossed it in the bin, as the Lord of Skulls tends to do to basically everything in the game. Yeah, ultimately we were able to get actually a lot of wraps off. I thought we did everything we could to avoid shooting, but the Psychic was just really, really painful. He just blew up my bloodletters when they came down. Not with like Aspect Scan, for example. We avoided that with some terrain, but for example, the next turn, I got some wraps off. I double wrapped. I wrapped a Scarab unit. I wrapped a Spawn, so he literally couldn't get out. And then he just smited and did like 15, 20 mortal wounds, and that was the bloodletters. By the time he shot, they were basically dead. So again, Thousand Suns do really well in other Chaos factions, ironically. So I guess Tzeentch is winning the great game. No offense to that beautiful, beautiful bloodthirster over there. Anyway, so on to game 7 and the first game of the final day. It was against Guy's Grey Knights, and Guy is his name. A fellow from Texas, and before we go on, I have to give a big shout out to Guy. Unfortunately, the morning of the third day, when I went down to get our stuff from our rental car, we came down to smashed windows, the car full of glass, and my friend Eric had gotten a lot of valuable stuff stolen, which, even though I didn't really lose anything per se, because the thief literally left my army on the tray there, I felt really bad for Eric. It was just not the kind of vibe you want to wake up to. Didn't want him to have that stress. It was really not what we wanted to see. So when I showed up to the event, basically ran from the parking lot. We were getting things sorted out there. Ran to the hole, got to the table. I was clearly distracted, I guess you could say, a little stressed out. So Guy was like, hey man, let's all take a deep breath. I'll go grab a beer for us at one point when the bar opens to settle things down. So again, shout out to him for being a good player to roll dice with. The game was a little boring. He took Bring It Down as a secondary, which I kind of did some quick mental math and realized that I can just basically, as long as I don't give up kills, I basically kind of win the game. Which I'm not sure it was a good or bad play by him. I think Guy was clearly an experienced player. He played it very well. There was a little bit of a list confusion thing, which we got sorted out. It was absolutely no fault of anyone. He was clearly an experienced player. He played very well. But I think that one secondary definitely kind of shaped the game, because Grey Knights do have a bit of a range issue. His shooting with some side cannons or whatever on the little dudes, or the Dread Knights are all 24 inches. And what that means is they can get up to 30 inches in the Tide of Convergence, or there's a tide that adds 6 inches to the range of his guns. But what that meant was he couldn't just sit and shoot from his deployment zone to my Lord of Skulls, who was kept safely in the back corner screened all game. It meant that he had to basically teleport up and get into the dangerous midfield area, at which point I could just shoot a bunch of decimator shots in there, shoot the Lord of Skull range. Because again, with 48 inches on both guns, that's why you always take those guns. Even though the other guns are higher damage, or the auto hit with the flamers, you take the two 48-inch guns and just make sure you control all lanes of fire down the board. So you're able to keep picking off Dread Knights, picking off strikes or interceptors that went forward. So yeah, the game was a little bit uninteractive, but I think Guy played really well, and certainly wished him good luck for the final game. And then the final game of the event was actually against elves. So the first game and the final game were both against elves. It was Quinn's really cool army. No, I seriously mean that. The bases were this beautiful, snowy stone theme. And he actually had, I thought this was really cool. On Quinn's army roster, he had a little lore section for his units, which, as someone that came with my own lore sheet, if you've seen some of my lists, I always put little joking comments or little lore descriptions in there, I thought was really cool to see. It was an awesome elves plus dark harlequins army. And I'll be honest, I got to the table and I kind of felt like I just couldn't win this mission. The dark harlequins were going to keep running over the midfield objectives. You get really good angles because the train pieces weren't oriented the right direction for this layout. But I realized I had a disadvantage, and one of my strengths as a player is kind of knowing when to play conservatively versus knowing when to play aggressively, like kind of knowing when to shift gears and doing honest assessments of the board state. Because sometimes people will be like, hey, I'm going to lose in position, but they're going to keep playing conservatively. If you're just in a position where you need to make plays, you just have to accept you're behind and kind of take higher variance routes to basically introduce some variance into the game and see if you can kind of dig out from behind. And that's exactly what I did. I got first turn. I played very aggressively. With my decimators up, all I killed was like 2 5-man aspects and blew up 1 harlequin boat. And in his turn, he killed 2 of my 3 decimators. So turn 1 didn't go very great. Turn 2, I thought I'd set up a perfect play. I had like 1 decimator was going to go finish off the Incarn, which pro tip, if you ever face the Incarn, if you ever get shots on it, shoot it first. Don't shoot anything else in the phase. Well, I mean, do some thinking. There are situations where you can do things differently. But take a minute to plan out your shooting phase before you roll any dice if they have the Incarn in their list. Seriously. It's so easy to make mistakes. So I kind of had a plan there to deal with that with the decimator and the Ichor cannon on the Lord of Skulls coming out of reserves. Quinn did have 2 fire prisms, which, just like game 1, means he has access to a stratagem to fire one of them with twice as many shots and ignore my invulns, which is, they're like 6 damage each or something. It's not what the Lord of Skulls wants to see. And the Lord of Skulls will come out of reserves and pop one of the fire prisms. Well, also the Bloodletters are going to come down and wrap a Harlequin boat and then position themselves so that there was no room to disembark. And all of the 9 troops inside were going to die in the explosion. It was a great plan on paper. And then 20 Bloodletters failed to kill 1 Harlequin boat. The -1 to hit with no hit rerolls was really, really brutal. We did kill the Incarn, but the Lord of Skulls didn't pop the fire prism, left it with like 4 wounds left. And what that meant is come bottom of turn 2, Quinn, of course, starts the shooting phase. He announces he's using the linked fire prism strat, and he rolls his 4 shots with a super high damage in the Lord of Skulls. And the hit rolls are like 1, 1, 1, 4 or something. He CP is one of them, of course. Wounds with fate dice, but still, that meant like total his overall shooting phase did like I think it was around 20 damage to the Lord of Skulls total. And then my turn, I felt a bit bad for Quinn. Quinn asks, okay, so he's down to like less than half wounds. What degrades on the Lord of Skulls? And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry, Quinn. You're in for a world of hurt, my friend. Because for those who don't know, the Lord of Skulls, nothing relevant degrades. All he does is gain more attacks and a bit of movement, or he loses some movement, loses some strength, which who cares? He actually gains attacks. He became better in combat against all of his Harlequin troops in the midboard, and the ballistic skill and weapon skill didn't degrade, which meant, of course, the Lord of Skulls went sicko mode with Demon Forge and shooting, did horrible things to the Eldar army, of course blew up a remaining fire prism. The Bloodletters finished what they started. The Decimator took some pot shots, killed some troops. Some Warp Talon slipped an objective from his jet bikes, and then his turn 3, he fired his remaining fire prism into the 9 wounds left Lord of Skulls, and rolled like a 1-1 on the hits again. CP'd one of them. He got like 1 of his 6, or I think it's 3d3 damage. Got some high damage through, shot some other stuff. The Lord of Skulls ended my turn with 2 wounds. Yeah, the Lord of Skulls with 2 wounds shoots and fights just as well as a 28 wound Lord of Skulls. So Demon Forge again, Lord of Skulls goes sicko mode with a Crimson Crown, and I ended my turn 3 and looked around the board and he had like 5 units left. I give Quinn a ton of credit, by the way. He didn't quit, he didn't get demoralized, he kept battling for every point he could, which, as someone that plays Alpha Legion competitively, I fully have been there, and I knew the signs of him really battling well, and Quinn really did a great job staying mentally in the game. But honestly, by end of turn 4, actually, I literally tabled him, except for 1 Farseer, which he set up a really cool play to, not fire and fade, a battle focus onto an objective, while doing some damage and gaining a kill on a unit of cultists in the center. So well played by him. I will say of all my games in the tournament, this was one where I have to give credit to the dice. That doesn't mean I didn't play very well. I honestly can say I played my ass off, did everything I could to gain the win. But at the same time, I fully acknowledge that if the Fire Prisms had shot turn 2 and had gotten 4 hits instead of 1 hit, and the Lord of Skulls dies turn 2, which happens a very high percentage of the time, maybe it's probably like a 50-50 that his army one-shots the Lord of Skulls, then we're looking at a very different game, because then he's not firing for 3 more turns with full hit and wound rerolls. Full failed hit and wound rerolls, which meant I did not reroll any 3s if he had -1 to hit. But yeah, it was an unfortunate swing of events, and we were able to basically table him and gain the win. So long story short is we ended up 3-1 before the bracket with Alpha Legion, 3-1 after the bracket with Alpha Legion. And honestly, the crazy part was at no point did I really feel my army was holding me back that much. There was not a single person in the event, or a single moment during the event where I was like, man, I really wish I had a second wound on my Space Marines or Warp Talons. They were either hidden, or they were dead, or sacrificed for a Stranglehold play, sacrificed to flip an objective. It would have made literally no difference. I would not have taken any Space Marine troops over my 60-point CSM in the event, not a single unit. The Alpha Legion toolbox was incredible against Eldar and a lot of other armies. And here's the thing, I don't like Gotcha Hammer. There was a moment game 1 where the guy tried to put some guys down with Deep Strike. I was going to Auspex scan. We talked a bit, and I said, hey, just push him back out of range. Because my opponent was being an absolute gentleman, Jeremiah. I don't like to play that way. But the fact that I could Auspex scan or could 12-inch Deep Strike deny, especially against Grey Knights, for example, really had a huge effect on changing the board state. The fact I could pre-game move guys, like have the threat of, oftentimes there's maybe a wall up in the midfield. I need to use the 9-inch pre-game move to put a unit of CSM behind so they can score Stranglehold turn 1. That pre-game move strat was huge. And most importantly, the redeploy was amazing. And the fact I could then use a stratagem to then buy Flames of Spite on the Lord Discordant, just guarantee he kills whatever he kills, made a huge difference. So, of course, the Warhammer would way more great chaos content. We're going to do more in-depth articles breaking down some of the decisions game by game. I'm going to talk with Wallace, who finished top 10 with Disciples of Bellicor, only losing the top 2 NIDS lists. An absolutely incredible run from one of the best chaos players out there. I just want to say final thoughts are, if you enjoy quality chaos content from people that love the faction and know how to play it very well, consider supporting the Patreon. If you're here on YouTube, we're actually considering getting into battle reports, because I have people ask me all the time, where are Disciples of Bellicor battle reports? Where can I see someone playing Alpha Legion competitively, And there's really nothing out there. And I feel kind of bad for Chaos fans that want to see super cool armies like Night Lords or whatever faction is underrated, played to the best of how it can be played. So we'd love to start making some content, have fun joking around, bantering, but that stuff is expensive. So if you enjoy Chaos content, consider subscribing to the Patreon. They'll be down in the in the video description. And if you can't, that's totally okay. I so badly want to express that, the support from everyone, the positivity, and just, the love for the faction that everyone here has shared with me has been an incredible motivator. And I'm just so happy to have connected with other people that love this amazing faction of chaos and this crazy wild universe as much as I do. So a big shout out to all of you. You're all amazing. I'm signing off for now, but keep an eye on this channel. Keep an eye on Warhammer. There's a lot more great chaos content headed your way. All right. Have a great day, everyone.